All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to be tackling something that a lot of you have been asking about.
Yeah, this one comes up quite a bit.
It does. So we're going to do a deep dive today on serving legal documents in Ontario's small claims court.
No, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we had a listener write in who was kind of interested in getting a handle on how this all works.
Makes sense.
So we found this fantastic article by Tim, a paralegal from MTS Paralegal Services, and he really kind of breaks down the whole process step by step. So by the end of this, you'll know exactly what it means to serve legal documents.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
When we say serving legal documents, what are we actually talking about here?
Well, it's not as dramatic as it sounds, or as you might see in the movie.
Yeah, no throwing papers in someone's face.
No. It's really just a formal way to deliver essential legal paperwork to someone involved in a case.
Okay.
It's how you let them know officially, hey, there's a legal action against you.
Right.
This is what's going on, and this is mandatory in Ontario's small claims court. It's all about fairness and transparency, making sure everyone is informed and has a chance to respond.
So essentially, it's like a legal heads up.
Exactly. It's like, hey, this is happening. You need to be aware of it.
So everyone's on the same page, legally speaking.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've established what serving is, but who can actually do this serving? Is it a specific job, or can anyone just walk up and hand someone papers?
That's where it gets interesting, because in Ontario, you might be surprised to learn that any individual over 18 and not involved in the case can serve legal documents.
So theoretically, I could serve someone papers.
You technically could.
That seems almost too easy.
Well, while it's technically allowed, it's not always as simple as it might seem.
Right.
I mean, there are specific rules you have to follow, and mistakes can have serious consequences for your case.
I can imagine.
Tim, being a paralegal, he strongly advises against trying to do it yourself.
Yeah.
He really recommends hiring a professional, a process server or a paralegal.
All right, someone who really knows the ins and outs.
Exactly. They'll make sure it's done right and you avoid any potential pitfalls.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to mess that up.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so we've got the who covered. Now let's talk about the how. Are we talking strictly in-person delivery, or are there other ways to serve documents?
Oh, there are definitely options. It's kind of like choosing your delivery method for dinner. You've got choices.
Okay, I'm liking this analogy. Lay it on me. What are my serving options?
All right, well, the most common and reliable method is personal service. You're literally handing the documents to the person or a representative of a corporation, if that's who's involved.
Okay, makes sense. It's the most direct way.
Right, but it can be tricky if the person is trying to avoid you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
So in those cases, there are other methods.
Okay, so what if someone's playing hide and seek? What are the alternatives to that face-to-face handoff?
Well, you could go for registered mail or courier. That's a good option if you don't have a reliable address for personal service or if the person's far away.
So it's like ordering delivery instead of pickup, but you'd want to make sure you get that delivery confirmation.
Exactly. Proof of delivery is key with this method. It shows the court you took the necessary steps.
Makes sense. What about email? I mean, it's 2025. Can you just shoot over an email attachment?
You're thinking ahead. Service by email is becoming increasingly common, especially for straightforward cases.
Okay.
It's fast, it's efficient, but it does require the recipient's consent, so it's best when everyone's cooperating.
Got it. Speed and convenience, but only if everyone's on board.
Right.
Now I'm picturing the ultimate scenario. Someone's actively dodging service. What then can you still serve them?
Well, if traditional methods fail, you can apply for something called substitute service.
So substitute service. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it basically involves serving the documents to someone connected to the individual, maybe a family member at their last known residence.
So you're asking someone else to pass along the message. Are there any rules about who this go-between can be?
Absolutely. It can't be just anyone. You have to convince the court that the substitute is likely to bring the documents to the person's attention.
Yeah.
And you need court approval before using this method.
So there are safeguards in place.
I see.
So it's not a free-for-all. Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
let's say I've successfully served the documents. Is my job done?
You're halfway there. Serving the documents is a big step, but there's one crucial piece left: proof of service. Think of it like a receipt.
Oh, so you need evidence to back it up, not just your word.
Exactly. And in Ontario's small claims court, this proof comes in the form of an affidavit of service.
Affidavit of service. So that's a sworn statement detailing exactly how and when you served the document.
Precisely. It's your official record that the other party has been properly notified.
Okay, so we've covered who can serve the main methods and the importance of proof.
Yeah, we've laid a good foundation.
But this is just the beginning.
Oh, there's so much more to explore.
Exactly. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into timelines, potential challenges, and what happens when things don't go as planned.
It's going to get really interesting.
So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a short break. All right, so we've got a good grasp on the who and the how of serving legal documents. But let's get down to brass tacks. How long does this whole process actually take?
Yeah.
Are we talking days, weeks, or can it drag on even longer?
That's a great question. And realistically, it can vary quite a bit. It depends on the method you choose and how cooperative the other party is. If you go with personal service and the person's easy to find, it can be done pretty quickly.
So best case scenario, we're looking at maybe a few days.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, things aren't always so straightforward.
Right. If someone's actively trying to avoid being served, I imagine it could get a little more complicated.
Oh, absolutely. That's when you might have to rely on methods like mailing or substitute service, and those naturally take a bit more time. You've got to factor in things like mailing time, potential delays, and if you're going with substitute service, the time it takes to get that court approval.
So patience is definitely a virtue in this process. Are there any specific time limits or deadlines we should be aware of?
You bring up a very important point. There are deadlines for serving documents in Ontario's small claims court, and they can vary depending on the type of claim and the court's schedule. So staying organized is key.
It sounds like having a professional on your side could be a real game changer in terms of managing those deadlines.
Absolutely. They eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. They're familiar with all the deadlines and have systems to track everything.
So they can help you avoid those potential pitfalls that could really throw a wrench in the works.
Exactly. It's all about peace of mind.
So far, we've been talking about the ideal scenario where serving goes off without a hitch. But let's be real, it doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
What are some of the common challenges people run into when trying to serve these legal documents?
Well, believe it or not, one of the biggest challenges is simply locating the individual.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that would be such a hurdle.
It's more common than you think. People move, they change their phone numbers. Sometimes they even try to actively avoid being served.
It's like a real-life game of hide and seek, but with much higher stakes.
Exactly. And in those cases, you might need to get a little creative, maybe do some digging, or even hire a private investigator in certain situations.
So it can turn into a bit of a detective mission.
It can, but the key is to remember that even if someone's hard to find, it doesn't mean they're exempt from being served.
Got it. Persistence is key. But what about those who are uncooperative, even when you do manage to track them down?
That's another challenge you sometimes encounter. Individuals might refuse to accept the documents, pretend they're not who you're looking for, or even try to intimidate the server.
That sounds stressful. I could see how having a professional by your side would be invaluable in those situations.
Definitely, professionals are trained to handle those situations calmly and effectively. They know the legal procedures to follow and can provide documentation and testimony if needed.
So it's not just about getting those papers delivered. It's about navigating those potential obstacles and making sure everything's done by the book. What are the consequences? If you don't serve documents correctly, how could that impact a case?
The consequences can be significant, ranging from minor delays to, in some cases, having your entire case dismissed.
Wow. So it's not something to be taken lightly.
Not at all. The court takes proper service very seriously. It's fundamental to ensuring fairness and due process for everyone.
So it's not just about dotting your I's and crossing your T's. It's about upholding the integrity of the entire legal process.
Precisely. And that's why someone like Tim, with his paralegal expertise, would always stress the importance of seeking professional help if you're unsure about any aspect of serving legal documents.
Better safe than sorry, especially when it comes to legal matters. Now, everything we've discussed so far has been specific to Ontario Small Claims Court. Are these rules and procedures the same across the board for other provinces or even other types of court cases?
That's a great question, and it highlights the fact that legal procedures can differ depending on where you are and the type of case you're dealing with. What works in Ontario Small Claims Court might not apply in a family law case in British Columbia, for instance.
So it's like different legal universes with their own sets of rules.
In a way, yes, it's essential to do your research and understand the specific rules and regulations of your jurisdiction.
So consulting with a legal professional who's familiar with the laws in your province or territory is always a good idea.
Absolutely. They can guide you through the process and make sure you're following the correct steps.
So far, we've really dug into the practical side of serving legal documents, the methods, the challenges, the importance of doing it right. But let's zoom out for a second. Why is this process so crucial in the grand scheme of our justice system?
At its core, serving legal documents is all about ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability. It's about making sure everyone involved in a legal dispute is properly informed, has a chance to respond, and is held accountable for their actions.
It sounds like it's really the foundation for a just and equitable legal system. Every properly served document is a building block for a system that aims to treat everyone fairly, no matter their background or circumstances.
That's a great way to put it. It levels the playing field and ensures that everyone has equal access to justice.
This conversation has really shed light on how a process that might seem purely technical actually plays such a vital role in upholding those core values of fairness and justice.
It's fascinating, isn't it? We often get caught up in the courtroom drama, but the reality is that the groundwork for a fair trial starts long before anyone steps foot in a courtroom.
Speaking of fascinating, I'm curious to explore how technology is shaking things up in this area. We touched on email service earlier, but I imagine there are even more groundbreaking developments on the horizon.
You're right. Technology is transforming the legal landscape at an incredible pace, and the way we serve legal documents is no exception in our next segment. We'll dive into the exciting world of virtual hearings, online dispute resolution platforms, and the potential for serving documents entirely electronically.
So instead of someone hand-delivering documents, we might get court notifications through email or even a secure app on our phones.
Exactly. Imagine receiving a notification on your device confirming delivery of legal documents. It's all about efficiency and potentially speeding up the entire process.
While that sounds incredibly convenient, I can't help but wonder about the potential challenges of going fully digital. What about ensuring security, verifying the recipient's identity, or even just making sure everyone has access to the necessary technology?
Those are all valid concerns, and they highlight the need for a balanced approach. As we embrace these advancements, we need to do so responsibly, making sure fairness and accessibility aren't compromised along the way.
It's like we're standing at the cusp of a new era for legal proceedings, and it's crucial to carefully consider the implications for everyone involved. This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. I feel like I've gained valuable insights into a process that, honestly, I didn't give much thought to before.
It's often the processes we take for granted that are the most crucial.
It's true. And this one, serving legal documents, it's one of those behind-the-scenes mechanisms that's absolutely essential for maintaining fairness and transparency in our legal system.
Couldn't agree more.
A huge thank you to Tim, our paralegal expert, for shedding light on this complex topic, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive into serving legal documents in Ontario's small claims court. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding these procedures can empower you to navigate the legal system with more confidence.
And if you ever find yourself needing guidance on this or any other legal matter, remember there are professionals out there ready to help you every step of the way.
Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you on our next deep dive. All right, so let's talk about the future of serving legal documents. What kind of technological advancements are we seeing in this area?
Well, it's really fascinating because, as we were talking about, technology is transforming so much of how the legal world works. Virtual hearings, online dispute resolution, it's all becoming much more common. And
yeah, and that makes it seems like the next logical step would be moving towards serving documents entirely electronically.
Right, exactly. Instead of someone physically handing you papers, you might get court notifications through email or a secure app on your phone. It's all about streamlining the process and making it more efficient.
That sounds pretty convenient.
Mm-hmm.
But are there challenges to going fully digital? I mean, what about security, verifying someone's identity, or even just making sure everyone has access to the necessary technology?
Those are all important considerations. You're right. It's one thing to embrace the advancements, but we have to do it in a way that's fair and equitable for everyone.
Definitely. It seems like we're kind of at a crossroads where we need to balance the benefits of technology with the need to ensure access and fairness for all parties involved.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that's happening right now as the legal landscape continues to evolve.
Well, this whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've learned so much about a process that I honestly never really gave much thought to before.
It's one of those things that happens behind the scenes, but it's crucial for maintaining fairness and transparency in the legal system.
It really is, and it makes you realize just how important these seemingly small procedures are for upholding justice and ensuring a level playing field for everyone.
Exactly.
A huge thank you to Tim for providing such a clear and concise breakdown of this complex topic. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of serving legal documents in Ontario's small claims court.
It's been a pleasure.
If you're ever facing a legal issue, remember there are resources and professionals available to help guide you through the process. Knowledge is power, and understanding your rights and the procedures involved can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Don't hesitate to seek guidance when you need it.
Until next time,
Yeah.
stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you on our next deep dive into another fascinating corner of the legal world.